Welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today into a very specific piece of hardware. It's the DVIGear DVI-7312. It's a single-link DVI fiber optic extender. And really, our mission here is to figure out its limits. It's built for one job, sending DVI signals a very, very long way.
And that's the key, right? The long distance. Because, copper cables just can't do that. If you try to run DVI past, say, 15 meters, the signal just falls apart. It gets noisy, it degrades. This piece of gear is the answer to that. It keeps the image absolutely flawless. But for that capability, well, you're looking at a $525 price point. It does come with a solid 3-year warranty, though.
Okay, let's unpack that. 2 kilometers is a wild distance for any video signal. But I have to ask, why DVI? I mean, it's a legacy standard. It's kind of phasing out of the consumer world.
And that's the whole point. That fact right there defines who this is for. It's not for your new home theater. It's for installed infrastructure. Think control rooms, industrial monitoring, maybe some military simulation setups that are all built on DVI.
So let's get into the specs then. The big headline number is that 2 kilometers. That's over a mile.
It is, but your actual distance, well, it really depends on the cable you choose. So if you go with a high-performance single-mode fiber, you get that full 2,000 meters. If you use the more common multi-mode fiber, you're looking at more like 500 meters, which is still, really far. Either way, you need 2 strands of fiber with LC connectors.
And the quality holds up across that distance. We're talking PC resolutions up to 1920 by 1200 and HDTV up to 1080p.
Exactly. But keeping that 1920 by 1200 signal perfect over a mile isn't just about the distance, it's about the environment. Which brings us to signal integrity.
And this is where it becomes critical for those industrial applications you mentioned.
It is. The biggest advantage of fiber is its total immunity to RFI and EMI, radio and electromagnetic interference. I mean, if you run a copper cable next to heavy machinery or big power lines, the signal gets corrupted. It's just a fact. Fiber uses light pulses, so it just doesn't care about any of that electrical noise. The signal stays perfectly clean.
So the unit itself, it's basically 2 parts, an optical transmitter, the TX, and an optical receiver, the RX.
Yep. The transmitter converts the DVI signal to light, sends it down the fiber, and the receiver turns it back into DVI for your screen. Simple as that. But the transmitter has this really smart feature for something called eDIVE. It has a programmable memory chip that basically tricks the source, like your computer, into thinking the monitor is plugged in right next to it. So you don't need a separate copper cable just for that communication, which is a huge simplification for installers.
That makes sense.
So,
But we have to talk about the biggest limitation here.
Yeah.
The one thing that's really narrows down who can use this.
the critical caveat, and we have to be extremely clear here, this device does not support HDCP, high bandwidth digital content protection. So what does that mean for you? It means if your video source requires that HDCP security handshake, think a Blu-ray player, a modern streaming box, even some secured PCs, this hardware just won't work. It will fail.
And that lack of HDCP, plus the fact that there's no digital audio support mentioned anywhere, that feels intentional. It's not an oversight. It's defining the product. This is strictly for visual data, not protected media content. Even though it can handle a pretty high video bitrate, 1.65 GBPs, and 8-bit color.
That's the focus. It's a 2-kilometer, completely immune link for mission-critical visual information, things that can't be interfered with.
So to sum it up for you, the core value here is extreme range and perfect signal immunity. It's for legacy DVI systems where distance is everything.
Right. And knowing this forces you to ask a very specific question about your own setup. Does my source material require content protection? Because if you need to go 2 kilometers, you're already in a niche. You're probably running something like a KVM extension for a control tower or a medical display in an operating room or a monitor on a factory floor. In those cases, reliability and distance are what you care about, not watching a copyrighted movie. And that choice, that specific need, is what makes this the right tool for the job.